And yes, I drove all the way out here to see some rocks. Good morning, everybody. We are obviously already on the road, driving through Capitol Reef National Park. And I'm headed, hopefully, to a somewhat remote portion of Capitol Reef that can only be reached if you have a high clearance four-wheel drive vehicle. If you're new to the channel, I'm Katie. That's Tuk sitting back there. And there's some deer. There's a whole herd of deer. I'd say most people who come to this park really only see the stuff along Highway 24 because a lot of the park is difficult to access. And we may be having some difficulty accessing as well. So besides the highway going through the park, most of the roads that go through here are dirt roads, and a fair number of them are high clearance four-wheel drive roads, like the one we're gonna go on. And there's been a little bit of weather, so I don't know if we'll be able to do this whole road. I hope so. Look what you can see just from the highway. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. Capitol Reef, it's a geologic reef, and it's essentially a wrinkle in the Earth's crust here. And it's a wrinkle through a bunch of sandstone, so you get lots of very impressive sandstone formations. It is much like the San Rafael Swell, which is also a reef that I visited in the last video. But this one's way bigger. Capitol Reef is probably one of the least developed national parks in the lower 48. There isn't much here. There are fruit orchards because there was an old town in the middle of the park, and they make really good pies in the summertime and sell pies in the national park, but I can't get one of the pies right now. They are closed for the winter. That's a bummer. I really wanted to get a pie. They're really good pies. This is the river ford. You enter the river right here and drive up and exit up there. And it's plenty shallow right now for crossing, and I really want to cross it, but I would just be crossing it to cross it because I'm not going to go this route. I'm going to go a slightly different route, and I'll show you that on the map. So this is Capitol Reef National Park, and it's a very long, skinny national park. And where we just drove was Highway 24, which goes across the park. And where we're sitting right here is at this little river ford. Where we want to go is up here. And there's a loop road that crosses the river ford and then goes over Bentonite hills right here. It goes into the park and it goes up onto the mesas of the park and makes a loop outside of the park and comes back down to Highway 24. This loop road is all four-wheel drive, and right here where you would enter after the river ford are what are called the Bentonite hills. And those hills are impassable if there is any moisture, and there's been a little moisture. So we are taking the road at Caneville and coming up into Cathedral Valley. Now, I'm not 100% sure that that part of the road is passable, so we'll see how far we get and what the road conditions look like. It's been a long time since I've driven these roads, and I can't remember if the other side goes through Bentonite, the other side of the loop side we're taking. And I don't think it does, but I'm not 100% sure. So we're gonna go and we're gonna see what it's like. And if it's a no-go, then it's a no-go. These hills we are driving through right now are Bentonite hills, and we're on pavement, so we're fine. Bentonite is sticky, slippy stuff when it's wet. We have turned off onto the loop, and we'll see how it goes. On the other side of the loop, these are the hills you would be driving over. They are 100% bentonite. If you haven't watched my previous videos where I've talked about bentonite, please believe me, you do not want to drive over them or even walk over them if there's any moisture at all. there was 0.03 inches of rain in the last 24 hours, which seems like absolutely nothing, but it's enough to make the Bentonite Hills potentially quite hazardous. This is a short section of Bentonite that we are driving through, and it actually seems quite dry, so that is promising. I really want to break out my drone because this would be incredible drone territory, but it's too windy. The drone would be blown away. But I want to show you this little pretty spot right here. It is quite breezy out there. I don't know that I'm going to be getting out all that much because that's windy and cold, but it's dry. I've driven this road a few times, but I've never actually driven it in this direction, counterclockwise. I've always driven it clockwise, and it really gives you a cool new perspective on the road. Could you do it in your Subaru? Probably. As long as it's dry. And I mean, if it's not dry, you don't want to do it even if you have a tank. So, hey buddy. Ah, how beautiful is that? It's kind of hard to point in the camera, but that's where we're going. I know about this road and the cool stuff back here because of my parents, who are intrepid adventurers. I don't know how many years ago it was, but quite a few years ago, decades. They took this road, and I'm not sure where they started. They may have started from here because they ended up at the river ford. And they came back and saw the beautiful rock formations. I think what they were driving at the time was a Ford Explorer. It's a long road, so it takes all day to drive it, and they had no prior knowledge of the road before they drove it. And they ended up at dark at the river ford that they didn't know was coming up. Didn't know how deep it was, and you couldn't call anybody besides the fact that nowadays there's no cell service there. There was certainly no way to call anybody back then. In the dark, on a road that they've been driving on all day, without getting out to walk the river ford, and without being able to see where you exited the river because it was dark and you couldn't tell that you had to actually drive, 30 yards through the river to get to the exit. They crossed that and lived to tell the tale. And I'm not so sure it was their sense of adventure that led them to cross that river. I think it was more, they were really tired from driving all day and we're just like, we're done, we're crossing the river. We are starting to see the iconic landscape that we've been aiming for. are the two rather spectacular sandstone formations that we have come out to see. This is the Temple of the Moon. And I'm gonna run out there so you guys can get an idea of the size of this thing. It's really big. It's very impressive. And yes, I drove all the way out here to see some rocks. And this is the Temple of the Sun. And if you look at the cliffs behind here, you can see that more of these sandstone fins are eroding out of the cliffside. Someday, there will be a bunch of temples in Cathedral Valley. And now we're at decision-making time. Because do I just go back the way I came, or do I complete the loop? I've only gone about 15 miles of the 60-mile road to get to here, and it's 1 o'clock. And it's gonna take some hours to do the rest of the road, and it's gonna be dark by the time we get to the river crossing. So I think I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna follow in my parents' footsteps and probably be doing the river crossing in the dark. Oh, before we skedaddle, this cool thing is called Glass Hill. And I don't actually know whether that's gypsum or quartz, but it's cool crystals eroded out of the sandstone, and it's pretty big. It's a good size. And it's just one of those neat little desert oddities that you find out here. I assume gypsum of some kind, because it's kind of flaky. I thought the wind chilled out enough to send up the drone, but it pretty quickly was like, no, land now, wind is too high. I got a teeny bit of drone footage while we're cruising through BLM land. What I really want to do is to camp back here, because there's a ton of BLM land along this road. Like the national park and BLM are right next to each other. And this road kind of runs along them, and you could camp on the BLM land. But there is a storm coming in tonight for sure that is going to drop some snow, and it's not a good idea to be back this road if it's going to snow. So it's going to be really hard to see because the sun is in that direction, but this is a really neat piece of geology. You have these dark little fins in front of the sandstone. And actually we've got some more up here too, so we'll be driving by these as well. And that was where lava flowed in between layers of sandstone, and then the sandstone eroded away. And that's kind of cool. I don't know where the lava came from. Like which mountain is the volcano? I don't know that. But I do know that those are lava dikes, and they're neat. We are in Upper Cathedral Valley now, and it doesn't have the distinct temples like in the Lower Cathedral Valley, but I mean, these sandstone fins are quite impressive. So ahead of us is a mesa, and you may be able to see a car coming down it. but we've got to go up that. And it's actually really slow going, but there's some beautiful views of the valley once we get up there. So this part of the road is bumpy and pretty narrow, so I need to be watching out ahead to make sure that I get out of the way of cars that are coming. I do have to say I'm seeing a lot more people up here than I would expect for this time of day and this time of year. I mean, it's not a lot of people, but there's people here. There's a campground that's kind of at the halfway mark that we just passed, and I'm tempted to stay there, but I don't want to get stuck out here, and it is gonna snow. Tuk has been doing pretty good with all of this, especially since he is not a big fan of bumpy roads. He's been doing good. What a glorious view. And here you can see some of the really cool fins that we were driving by. We've got about 30 miles to go, and depending on the condition of the road, we can probably get that done in an hour and a half, 2 hours. Yeah, it's slow going. It looks like it's going to be dry, and the main reason I say that is because I've seen people coming the other way. This is slow going because it's really bumpy. But the good news is when we get to the Bentonite hills, it'll be a lot smoother. Assuming they really are dry, which I think they're gonna be. Check out that cool little toadstool there. We're almost out of the national park itself and back onto BLM land, and I can finally kind of open it up a little bit and go a little faster, relatively speaking. We are starting through the Bentonite hills, and it seems dry, thank goodness. It would really be a not awesome thing to have to turn around right here and go back the other way. Almost lost the drone with that. The wind is really blowing and it could not return home. I would love to show you more of the Bentonite hills via the drone, because that really is the best way to see them, but I'm not breaking the drone back out. These are lovely, lovely hills. This is the stuff I've been talking about. These hills are composed of it, and it looks like little rocks. But these little rocks are really dangerous when they get wet. What do you think of the Bentonite hills? You're just happy to be out of the car, but we're not at a camp spot yet because it is going to snow here, and we do not want to be caught in the snow. We made it to the river ford, and I need to protect my diesel heater exhaust and intake from the water. So I am stuffing the exhaust and the intake with doggy bags. There's the exhaust. I also have it kind of strapped up and attached to the rock bar. We made it across the river ford before dark. Now we gotta find a camp spot. We're headed down the road just a few miles to some BLM land and just gonna make camp real quick before it gets dark. It's almost there. We found camp for the night, not too far off of a road called Notum Road. It's gonna be hard to see because of the sun, but we've got a pretty nice view. Dinner tonight is PB&J because I'm tired. It was a long day driving. And I'm also using some of my peanut butter for this, which is a mouse trap, because I have a mouse in the Jeep. I've had to throw away so much food. I am determined to catch the mouse. Now, if this doesn't catch the mouse, I will resort to the more lethal kind of traps. And this kind just catches them and then you can release them. So I'm hoping that this will do the trick. We'll see. Put it, that's where she likes to go. And how you doing? You had all your dinner. You want some of my peanut butter and jelly, don't you? Yeah. And I think that's it for tonight, folks. And I want to thank all of you for coming along with me. It's amazing that you're coming along with me. And if you've made it this far in the video and you're not a subscriber yet, maybe you should subscribe. It costs nothing and it really does help. We'll see you down the road.